Hey guys, I wanted to make this post to just briefly discuss golf balls. One thing that you'll notice about the balls is when you go into overpower, the needle shakes at a certain speed. Depending on what ball you're using is going to change how much the rate of that speed goes. Now, Ian McIntosh and I have discovered that there's essentially 6 different types of balls. Basically five cases here. So I have, a special case where the turbo ball, case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. And you'll see that each one of these displays the rate at which it goes from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. The slower the time, the better the ball in reality, because it's that much easier to hit perfect ball. So they're divided into 5 cases. And this is a post from Golf Clash Notebook. It's found in the announcement section. I wanted to put together this video though, just because I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep doing this. I'm kind of tired of paying for every ball in the game. I'm not given balls by Playdemic or anything, but we do have every single ball in the game that they've ever put out with the needle speed and its corresponding category. And you'll also see up here just a brief section on tour multiplier. So this would be for tours. So for instance, if I wanted to know how fast, for example, tour 10 is, we could take these are baseline numbers for essentially, no tour multiplier. One of the things that you'll see is there's a tour multiplier and then there's an adjusted multiplier. I believe the tour multiplier is for their code. It's essentially like an input. They probably input that into whatever their code runs, and the output is more closely a calculation computed that actually affects the speed of the needle. So, for example, tour 10, you'll see an 18% increase in needle speed from its baseline tour 1 value, which has no affected multiplier. So, how would that be useful? So for instance, if I was to take the base number, call it, 0.83, for example, and I was to go to tour 10, which is 18%. If I want an 18% increase, it's an 18% increase on 100%, which is full. So it would be basically 118%. Converted to a decimal is 1.18. So if I was to take the baseline value, 0.83, and divide by 1.18, it would show me what that converted seconds is, and it's going to speed up the needle at that rate. So, 0.83 would probably go to somewhere around maybe 0.75, for example, just as an example. I'm not sure if that's what it is or not, but, just running you through how that's computed. It's basically supplemental. You don't need that information for anything, but I just wanted to cover it and let you know that all of these balls are available and can be found on the Golf Clash Notebook Facebook site, as well as the Golf Clash Notebook webpage as well. So Ian keeps this data up. So if you were to go to the balls and scroll down here, you'll see each ball has the OP needle speed right on the ball as you scroll down, and it also has the statistics of each and every ball. So the display is just a little bit differently on Ian's. What I did was basically made it to where each ball has a certain amount of time that it passes from one side of the screen to the other. Ian converted it to seconds. So instead of the way to read Ian's is basically how many times it does passes in 1 exact second. So all of his is standardized to 1 second. Mine is standardized to just one side of the screen to the other. So we just basically have 2 different ways of displaying the data, but they result in the same, overall timing scheme. This is something we spent a lot of time putting together. We've had to buy all the balls to make this happen. And I'm just getting, kind of a little burnt out on doing it. So I at least wanted to make a post just kind of describing this, let you know this resource is out there in multiple places. And, that's how you can go back and reflect on, that at a later time if you'd like to see the balls. So good luck out there, guys, and hopefully you guys can find some good use to this. Right, hello everyone. We are back here for the Skyline Cup. Going to do the pro account. This is my free to play account. And just want to show you my bag setup, how I have things. I'm going to try to stick with sniper bags as my primary use for this tournament. Let's take a look at where we've left off from tour play last week, so you can see with where I'm at. This is going to be my last bout in pro. So if you've ever, thought about when you're going to be moving up, if you can see with where my clubs are, these are suitable clubs for expert. If you don't go to expert, the odds of you ever getting and unlocking Apocalypse and Cataclysm, it's just going to be lowered. I can open chests to death, but until I hit that 2,300 trophy mark, it's going to be hard to unlock Tour 6 clubs. It's going to be hard to unlock Tour 7 clubs before I hit that 3,900 trophy mark. So to accelerate that, you go to the tournament in expert and you start playing expert. You're going to have a higher probability chance of success to get that unlock at any given point with the golden shot, with the tournament chests. Those are the 2 best chests, and the best are the tournament chests. If you could do master, it'd be even better. If you could actually get through a masters tournament, you would actually accelerate it. You'd probably unlock every club in the game, just after a couple tournaments, because of how good those chests are. They just have higher probability of success to get those cards, and you will be able to upgrade those clubs more rapidly. As you can see, I don't have any of them unlocked, but after just playing pro one time, that's what it took for me to get the Thor's Hammer. And in the meanwhile, while I have just been playing tour, whatever, I can't get Endbringer to unlock. I can't get B-52 to unlock. It just goes to show you kind of what you want to focus on. As I mentioned, this is going to be my last pro attempt. So, I am in the Pro League, Pro 3. I'm going to try to make sure that I stay in Pro 3 this week and then move up to Expert 1 next week. So keep that in mind. Good luck with your tournaments, guys, and I'll see you out there on the course. All right, here we are, guys. Pro hole 1 here of the qualifier. We're going to get underway here. Now, what I'm going to try to do is a very similar hook shot to what you guys saw me do with my pro guide. So we're going to try to do something similar. I'm going to try to use the Thor hammer and a Titan ball. I believe in the guide, I used maybe a katana ball with an extra mile. However, I should be able to do the same shot with a Thor's hammer. Imagine a ball up to a Titan. And I have much easier on this account to get Titans replaced because I can win them in this tournament. So first off, I'm going to play off the right of my bullseye plus the wind. So I'm at least going to play 3 rings for the wind. So I'm looking at kind of this area as my land zone right now. And then additionally on top of this, I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 rings. So there's 5, thinking somewhere around here. As soon as I get that Thor up another level, I'll typically go a full bullseye extra. And that'll be about the perfect amount. So there's my first slice. I can't believe that. Oh wow, it actually went into the water. So it looks like I'm not going to be able to get this over. Man, I would have thought that would easily make it over. And I don't have my extra mile. So I'm surprised by that outcome. That's going to get me off to a slow start here, it appears, as it's looking like I may par now. You can see opponent here is just going to basically try to beat it into the tree. I'm going to get just a little bit more aggressive on my aim this time. So I'm going to play less rings, and hopefully that'll be the difference. I may just switch up to extra mile, as you could see how close that was. And I'm just going to get a little bit more aggressive to the bunker this time. So same thing in mind. When I do this ring adjustment, I'm going to make sure that I land just closer to the bunker this time. And actually hit the bunker. So unfortunate there. Off to a slow start with this tournament. I am going to just switch up to the extra mile. Wow, I think that was on the fairway on my screen. You actually got it up onto the green. That's crazy. But we're going to start off with a par here, unfortunately. And I guess for my future rounds, we're just going to play this one with extra mile. As you can see, this is going to end up costing me. And I used 2 balls on this hole. I really don't think there's going to be a way for me to salvage this without some kind of miracle. I have to land right here pretty aggressively with a fair amount of curl. So let me do that real quick. Thinking 4 to 5 rings here, plus the curl that I mentioned. Got a perfect ball. Let's see if I can hit that lands. No, that's probably not going to be close enough. So I played too many rings, and as a result, blocked it out, got a par. So we'll just have to improve upon that in the future rounds. All right, here we are, hole 2. And just going to try to get an idea of what we want to try here. I believe I went Quasar for the extra side spin last time. I'm going to try to probably do something relatively similar. Try to get somewhere up here. You can see that I'm kind of trying to play wind effect. And I usually, I might come in just a tiny bit on the adjustment. I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 rings. I'm going to turn my grid on as well, just to make my life a little bit easier. But you can see with what I'm trying to do, which is just bump it up here, hopefully get the distance control and get it to shoot up towards the hole, give myself a possibility at a hole-in-one. Looks like I'm just a little bit off there, but overall not too bad. Just go ahead and get this grid on just to make my life easier. Material Q is the name of the application that I use. Can be found in the Google Store. See, the opponent is using a Kingmaker ball. I think that's a little excessive for Pro Division. I really highly recommend saving those until you're at least an expert. You can see my opponent doesn't exactly win a lot of these. So you can see he's probably pretty much, for the most part, spending money on the game to get those Kingmaker offers. And, you know, what I try to do is just hold on to those. You really don't need them for these tournaments. So since you don't need them, probably best to just, you know, hold on to them. So we are going to go for a bump here. A little bit of curl, a little bit of backspin typically. I'll typically also go pretty close to 1-ish per ring here. So at least 6.6 rings, maybe even towards 7. Won't hurt. Just do a little bit of curl. Perfect ball. You see, just a little bit lazy, but not too bad. 2.35. One thing my opponent will have is just if they want to do this Goliath shot, they actually have a little bit more club range, so they won't see that gap that I had on mine. So with the wind effect, you see ball comes up short, kind of resisting the ball from running out. Able to pick up the wind there. Get back on track after that miscue on 1. And I will see you guys on the next hole. All right, here we are, guys. Back for another guide here. Hole number 3. See, opponent is trying to beat the ball down into that second fairway. No real sense in doing that, in my opinion. Much better to just go for my shot here, which we're going to set up with a Titan ball. 3 topspin. And what I'll typically do is maybe about 5 rings from the edge, kind of like this. And I'll essentially just play 1 per ring here. You just be just a little bit light of that adjustment since I don't really quite have the top spin. So maybe just going just a little bit less on my adjustment, but much easier, in my opinion, to just get it over here into the fairway and position yourself nicely to be able to just go for the green this way. Now, I might be just a little bit on the shorter end with my QB that I have, which will keep me from, you know, easily being able to set up. However, we'll easily make it to the green and give ourselves a good opportunity for this hole. So we'll still be okay, no big deal. Not bad there to get that up. It's just going to be a tough crosswind pitch there for my opponent there. But, you know, as I mentioned, you know, we're going to have to go relatively full. I'm going to try to count rings kind of sideways here. I typically don't use much spin, so you can see that this, we're going to go probably about half power. You should see that that should be enough. And I'm going to try to do this from this perspective. Maybe try to get my target up here so I can just try to, you know, isolate in terms of an aim as to where I want to go. So I'm thinking, you know, somewhere down here for my adjustment, maybe like right here. So you can see power-wise with what I'm going to need. So great ball. I'm assuming probably be pushed out to the right a little bit, but maybe not. We'll see. Let's just see how it rolls out. It looks like it's coming up just a bit short. So pretty decent effort there. I was almost able to get that. Just needed just a touch more overpower. Would have probably made a friend here with my opponent not having to pitch this one. You know, the hardest part about this is going to be side wind. Of course, the first thing that you want to always do is test your club length, which my opponent didn't do. So he's basically just making this adjustment up and just hoping that he goes far enough. Because if you don't test your distance, how do you know how many rings to move? But you can see he actually pulls it off. But, you know, very lucky shot, because if you don't test the distance of the shot to know, I need to go mid club, I need to go min club, then you'll never know how many rings to adjust. So you're basically just winging it. So here we are back to this hole. I'm probably, you can see I got a tailwind this time, different wind, different ball. It's going to probably change the way that I play it. I'm probably going to play up in here, kind of similar to how you see my opponent doing. Now, typically that's not enough backspin, but we'll just see how he plays this out. Typically you want to use a little, oh, whoa, whoa, that is a big ring adjustment. So we'll have to just see how this plays out. But I'm assuming it's going to clip the rough, because he went. Again, that just kind of shows kind of the luck of his last adjustment, because he's basically just winging it with his ring play, which is something that I never do. You know, I always go with the philosophy of just, you know, trying to be very precise with your adjustments. And what I'm going to try to do is right around here. This is typically about 1.75 per ring. So I'm going to go maybe just a little bit more than 3 rings here. And not too bad overall. Tough to play that wind effect. It's actually a tough hole to play, mostly because of trying to anticipate. What I don't like about that is no matter what, on that hole, you're always either pulling up to higher ground or down to lower ground. Always kind of plays with your adjustment. It makes it that much more challenging to do. It's very hard to be consistent in those situations. All right, here we are, hole 4. I'm not sure the way that I want to play this one with this account. I really don't want to play it over there to the right. It's typically the way that I play the golden shot, though. I do like the golden shot from over there. That's how I played it after last tournament. I would assume you'll probably be looking at this hole again, maybe. It wouldn't surprise me, because they haven't done many golden shots on this. I think they only did it the one time. So, you know, I might be looking for them to probably put it back here again. Now, what I was kind of thinking was the bump, but I'm not sure curl-wise I can pull off the bump. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it in with just a little bit more speed. And also keep in mind that I'm pulling down to a lower target into the sand, which is going to typically cause the ball to come out just a little bit shorter. So there's about 6 rings right there. And just see if I can get this to curl enough. So you can see with how much I'm curling. And not bad overall. I may just stick with that shot. Just try to perfect that curl amount. because you can see that it is going to fly in there relatively consistent time and time again. And I'll just try to go a little bit more curl next time. My wind in that situation was kind of middle of the road. Could be higher, could be lower. So with that in mind, that'll basically dictate kind of how hard that shot's going to play on the average case. And that was pretty much my average case wind, because it could be as high as maybe 8.3 and as low as maybe 5.9. So maybe I was favoring the low end just a tiny bit, but it was still kind of somewhere in the middle case of all winds. Now, typically what I'll do with this is definitely go off the fairway here. So, and you can see that's what my opponent's doing as well. So let's see how he pulls this off. Not the easiest of all shots to get consistent going off this fairway. See, my opponent actually comes in just a bit too hot. I typically use some backspin on this one, a couple bars. I may just be pushing up towards max a little bit here. I'm thinking of coming off this slope a little bit. I usually may use 4 bars here. You can see that I'm going down a little bit because I'm going into the wind so much. So at least going to go 5 rings here, possibly 6 with this adjustment. Pretty close to 6 rings. And a good effort, just a little bit long, but overall not too bad. As I mentioned, you'll want to crank that backspin up possibly as much as 4 bars, depending on, if you have a little bit more of a tailwind as opposed to headwind. So keep that in mind. Good luck there, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, here we are, guys, back for hole number 5. Now, this is what I did in my other guide. I used the Titan, one for the range. I think it'll make it easier to hopefully stay in thorn range. So I'm going to play about 6 rings off here. Just a little bit of power and a fair amount of curl, similar to this. Perfect ball. Just trying to go off this island here. Get it over here to the left. And you can see with the extra distance that I have on the Titan as well, hopefully it keeps me within range so I can go at this with a backdoor thorn. So as you can see up here, this is about 2.3-ish per ring or so at max club. You can see I'm going to use just a little bit of spin. Try to land right around here. Try to get my ball guide offset, maybe around here. And other than this, we are going to use pretty close to that 2.3 per ring and maybe just overplay it just slightly. So I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5, 3.6 rings here. That's what I'm going to go. You can also see with my ball guide offset what I'm doing as well. So as you can see, I get it right behind the hole. Shoo! And just miss. I really could have used it too, especially with missing hole 1 with that par. It'd really be nice to have a stroke somewhere, but you can see right around that 3.6, 3.7 rings in that case was going to be ideal, and that's using a 2.3 per ring number. very close to the max, but also a little bit of overplay for wind effect, plus ball guide offset as well, kind of a combination of the two. And that doesn't appear to be enough ring adjustment. It looks like, more than anything, he just kind of wings things. So as you can see, not enough. Another, trick that you always have to do, you always have to test for max or min. You have to know where you are because it's a large range of ring adjustments. Okay, down towards min club, I play 4.6 per ring. Up towards max, I play 2.3 per ring. That's a huge range. So you can't just, use one or the other. You have to know how far you are in that span. Not to mention, you also have to know you're going to have more wind effect towards max club, less wind effect towards min club. So that's one of the main reasons that I never specifically tell you go this much for wind effect, because it varies depending on, are you towards max or are you towards min? It's going to be different each and every time. So I'm thinking just a hair over 3 here. Now what typically is going to end up happening is you're going to end up pulling towards higher ground here. I still end up using my max ring adjustment, typically, pretty close. Other than that, wind effect. So I'm maybe going to just try to curl it just ever so gently. Get it up here. Not too bad overall. 2.55. Didn't need that curl. I was kind of forgetting that it's tailwind and it's going to straighten out. Something I just kind of forgot about for a split second there. Opponent here can actually crank up the backspin a little bit more. It does make it just a little bit easier shot. So opponent does have just a tiny bit easier shot. As you can see, he can change the land zone and definitely has an advantage on this hole. So there's 5 rings. He may have just been just a little too tentative on this ring adjustment. So we'll have to just see. I do expect his ball with wind effect to come in just a little bit hot. So sure enough, right off the back of the green, and I'm able to pull off the win. So always got to be thinking about things like wind effect, not just ring adjustment. So keep that in mind, guys. Good luck with that hole. I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, here we are, guys. I'm back for another hole. Now, first off, I'm going to test my land zone. I'd like to land up here with some curl. So this is ideally where I want to get this to land. And I'm also going to need to go into a little bit of overpower here. So keep in mind, I do want to land up here. I'm just going to play just a little bit of that side wind, plus go full curl. And I'm also going to need some power here. So you can see that's with what I'm doing here. And that's going to be just a little bit on the shorter side. I may be kind of towards max club a little bit. So, I can basically use that as a learning experience. Say, I know I can easily go at least that much power. And maybe next, also keep in mind that I did have one of the smaller winds that I could get. So it'd be very hard to get a smaller wind than that, but I could get a larger wind. With a larger wind, I probably want to go that much power. If I get a small wind like that again, maybe just crank it up just a little bit more. But if you have a little bit more topspin, you wouldn't need to. You could just use 4 bars of topspin. So this is going to be a great opportunity for us to potentially albatross. But with my a little bit on the shorter end here, it is just going to complicate things just a little bit. As you can see, I can't quite use the aim that I want. Typically what I'd like to do is set up and be able to pull this off. So I'm going to use almost my full backspin, and I'm just going to have to essentially test the zone. You can see I'm 4 rings up. So I'm going to, typically what I'll do is I'll zoom out this way and kind of count my rings down. So So I can see that, you know, maybe 5 rings over here, 6 rings. You know, I'm basically just having to wing this a little bit more than I'd like. So it does make just a little bit harder to hold out like this. My ring adjustment looked good. It just looks like, you know, I didn't have it pulled back enough. But it was right on line there. And again, like I mentioned, we're just going to make sure that we drive it just a little bit farther moving forward. You can see my opponent got up here plenty. However, we did get a very large wind. So I actually had the max wind. I think mine was 7.5. His is 7.1, which equates to probably, you know, about 9.5-ish or 9.4 out of a possibility of maximum of 10 wind. So it does make just a little bit tougher to hold these out. And you'll see the, you know, you are shooting well uphill. You can see that the pin's covered and way up there in the air. So you always want to make sure that you're adjusting less. So I would only go about maybe 6 rings for a 7.1, give or take. And you can see opponent goes too many rings. Here we are back to this hole. Much different wind this time. This is a very tough wind to play. Oh wow, I didn't realize in Pro that they're showing first person spin. I thought that was covered in Pro. Apparently it's not. So here opponent is pulling down to lower ground, which typically causes the ball to land short. So it's typically going to land a little bit shorter than he probably, and you can see that's exactly what happened. It landed on the front of that fairway. So it does not get it to climb that hill. I never end up going off of that, but if you want to know the reason why that happened, it's a combination of him not playing it correctly, plus what I just mentioned. So you can see with what I do with my ball guide, just play it through. But also when you have wind straight into the face, so I'm no longer going to play 7.5 rings, I might play 9. So you'll see I'm going, you know, maybe 9 rings in this case because it's a more intense wind. And that's where the Golf Clash Notebook app really helps you because it, you know, it factors in some of that. And you can see I can still put it up here close to the hole, just, you know, playing my ball guide through the hole a little bit more, changing my spin, because last time we played this hole with the tailwind, I used full backspin. So I went from essentially full backspin to, you know, just about 2 bars. It's a very different amount of wind that I played in both situations. So keep that in mind. Good luck with that hole, guys, and I will see you guys on the next one coming up. All right, here we are, guys. Hole number 7. And you already know we're going to play it off this fairway similar to what you saw me do last time. Don't recommend playing it like this. You know, it's not going to come in with any speed, which makes it a little bit harder to hold out. So you see that it just stops. How are you going to get that to roll in? So you never want to crank the backspin up too high. You can see we got a very large wind here, which will probably end up, you know, typically I'll end up cranking my backspin up just a little bit higher than usual, maybe just a tiny bit, and maybe just 4. I'm going to use 4 bars. You can see with what I'm doing with my ball guide, you know, I do expect it to kind of jerk just a little bit more left than usual because it's a tailwind. So you can see with what I'm doing with my setup, I'm going to typically go 5.5 rings on a 7.4 at least, maybe even 5.8, 6 rings, somewhere in there. Perfect ball. And as I mentioned, you can see that it's straightening out to the left just as I said it would. So it's very hard to just kind of guesstimate what I'm going to do there. But we'll just work on kind of mastering that wind effect as we get more and more trials. This is the first time that I've played this account. So, it's kind of a new experience to me. I'm just kind of playing off of, my experience from yesterday when I played this in Pro. And I'll just try to reflect off on these shots moving forward and try to just do marginally differences to hopefully get different results and get some holdouts. Because I'm not going to have the greatest qualifier with that par on hole 1. So I got to make sure that I shoot in my opener a good round so I get a lot of tiebreakers. So I'm going to need at least a 26, 27 under next round. So that's what I'm going to shoot for. So I'll probably have to go more like a full curl shot on this one. Keep in mind that I am pulling down to lower ground again. So we kind of discussed this. It's going to cause the ball to come up short. So you're going to see that I'm even going to push forward just a little bit, knowing that the ball is going to land short. Now what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go full curl. I even call it a great ball. So with the full curl, I'm able to still get it over by the hole. But again, these are all factors that you need to, be thinking about when you're taking your shot. Moving down into the lower ground, know what that's going to do to your ring adjustment. These are the things that you always want to be thinking about. So you can see opponent really doesn't understand that, but he's starting to pick up on what I'm starting to do and he's trying to kind of work through it, but it'd be much easier if he found my channel and, could just get this explanation and, go from there working forward, because as you can see, this is something that can be learned. It's something that, everybody's kind of capable of, and the more that you see it, the better that you'll get at it. So let's go ahead, open another chest here, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, here we are, guys, back for another hole. When it goes into the rough, won't hit a downslope, so that's the reason for why that happens. So what I'm going to try to do is hit this side slope here. Should be able to go relatively full to make that happen. Aside from that, I try to essentially full curl it. I may take off just a tiny bit of power because I don't want to hit that same downslope. All I'm going to try to do is essentially play the wind into this area right up in here, which is a side hill, which is going to allow me to curl it very strong and get it to project down here. So you'll see with what I'm doing power-wise. And as I mentioned, just hit that side slope, which allows it to curl around here into the center of the fairway and get it down here up far enough. But we just do have to hit it on that, land on that side hill so we don't over curl it. Because you can see the way that my opponent plays the shot is quite different than the way that I play it. Because he barely curled his, I full curled mine, and we still had kind of the same line. And it has to do with the way that it hits the fairway. He's carrying it over that side hill. I'm landing it into that side hill. So do keep that in mind. What I recommend is not doing what my opponent did and just laying up. So it's much easier to get perfect ball by laying up. So that's what I recommend. If ever in that situation, it's a much smarter play in my opinion. Now you'll see what I'm going to try to do here is maybe try to land up in here. And you can see that's maybe just 2 rings into power or so, which means that I'm just going to essentially underplay my rings. So I'm only going to go maybe 4.5. Perfect ball. Almost able to get this one. So you'll see it does have the potential to be a hole-out hole. I was just trying to, I figured my ball guide was going to straighten out my line a little bit, so I tried to put just a tiny bit of curl on, and I really didn't need it. I should just sometimes just trust my initial, but I really didn't want to run into a problem there. So this is going to require perfect ball, and it's just a little bit harder to get perfect ball. So that's the biggest reason that I try to tell people, never try to go too much. It looks like he hits perfect ball and actually comes up short because he didn't keep that ball guide going through the hole. So sure enough, you can see, able to pull off the win there. And we will go to hole number 9. And hopefully get our last eagle. Maybe, luck into an albatross and finish strong, which would be nice. So let's just take a look. Silver chests here. Sniper 18. So good luck with that hole, guys, and hopefully I can secure this last eagle. See you guys on the next one. All right, here we are, guys. Very small wind here. So not too happy about this, but I do expect it to still carry him down into the fairway there, even with this super tiny wind. So I should still be good here, although I could go extra mile. Now what I'm going to try to do is I'm thinking maybe about 7 rings on this play. So there's 5. I'm playing off of the left of my bullseye as well. So I'm thinking somewhere around here, we're going to go full curl and just try to get this ball to land on the other side. And hopefully it hits the fairway. It looks like it actually doesn't. And that's not enough curls. So I'm going to just pull out extra mile from now on, because this yet again is going to be probably another birdie. So you really do have to hit that fairway on that first hop. The only other thing that I could do is I could lay up kind of similar to what you see my opponent doing here, and then try to maybe bring big dog. That would be an alternative method. But probably nothing that I'm interested in. I'm probably just going to try the extra mile hook shot, which will give me 6 extra yards, and that 6 extra yards should get me up into that fairway no matter what. So that's what I'm thinking moving forward as to what I'm going to do. You'll see opponent here hits a great ball, and that's also going to cause him to be in the rough. So we're going to have to kind of work for our eagle here. But I'll try to recover this and get this up into easy sniper range. So you'll see that I won't try to do too much here. And all I care about is getting it into the fairway. We get it into the fairway, we can still make eagle. I may even be just a little bit too close. I want to make sure that I don't get into that long iron range, because I actually find long iron to be just a little bit tougher to hit, because you have to lower that backspin, don't quite have the ball guide. It's going to make things, in my opinion, just a little bit tougher. So I'd almost rather be at the sniper, but at the same time, I'd like to be down towards min sniper a little bit, so I have to play less wind effect. It makes it a lot easier to hold out. So you can see opponent tries to get just a little too carried away. I recommend, just putting it back in play and trying to make sure that you get, and it looks like I'm okay here. I am down towards min club, exactly like I said I probably would be. But I do believe that this is still going to be, a good opportunity for us to be able to make. So you'll see that I'll just try to play this fairway. I'm thinking up here with my ball guide. And then I'm just going to underplay these rings, thinking in the neighborhood of maybe 4-ish, maybe just a little bit more than 4. Perfect ball. It's got a chance. just outside. So I'll try to straighten up that line moving forward, just knowing that it's almost going to land and come in too left. And it's, you know, kind of the ball guide that's causing that to happen. So unfortunate to not be able to get my eagle. But moving forward, I'm just going to play this hole with an extra mile. I thought I'd be able to get away with Thor's hammer. And I typically like playing with Thor's hammer just because it's a little bit, it has a lot more accuracy. However, as you can see, I mess up on 9, mess up on 1, and I think I got, you know, I pulled both of those shots off in my original guide with extra mile, and I still didn't go with extra mile. So that's what we'll be looking at moving forward. Not the best qualifier for us, but we should be through to the next round. And all I'm going to try to focus on moving forward is making improvements on definitely 1 and 9, and hopefully get something else to fall. As I mentioned, you know, we'll have to play significantly different. I really need like a 27 on my opener. So I'll just take my experiences from these rounds and hopefully be able to make those necessary adjustments, switch to extra mile on 1, switch to extra mile on 9, and hopefully things work out and we get you know, exactly what we set out to do. So let's see what opponent can do here. So as you can see, fairways all over the place. That's why you have to be very exact with your aim here. Now, in my experience, the opponent here doesn't have enough backspin here. He's actually going too many rings too. So this is really going to be an interesting shot. So too many rings plus not enough backspin. Let's just see how this rolls out. So too many rings actually pushes it way over to the right because you hit so much on that upslope that it just kicks the ball way right. And that's why you have to be so exacting with the way that you come about these shots. So as you can see with what I'll do, very similar to what I did last time, maybe just a little bit more backspin, 2 1/4 or so. And the biggest thing that I need to worry about is ring adjustment. I'll have to be very exacting. I'm thinking 5 1/4-ish rings here. So somewhere right around there. And then other than that, just let wind effect pull my ball back over towards the hole for me. So almost able to get it. So very good effort there, just not able to get it. And disappointing round to say the least. You know, this is not what I was expecting. I didn't expect to have those mistakes, especially after the very first playthrough. You know, I had no practice attempts on my, you know, I didn't even know what the winds were. I just went in, played the holes, and I think on my guide, you know, I put up like a -13 or at least a -12. I know I didn't make any mistakes on my pro guide. But here you can see, mess up on 1, mess up on 9, cost me 2 strokes. I should have at least been at the -12 number. With that in mind, you know, I want to get to probably a 26 number for my opener. And that's going to allow me to have those tiebreakers. Otherwise, you know, I'm just going to be middle of the road and I'm going to have to go in and shoot an epic weekend round. So much better to just get it taken care of, you know, and, you know, learn from these shots. I'm going to go back and watch my shots, you know, before I go shoot my round, you know, and that's what you guys should be doing. That's the type of things that you should be thinking about, is doing that. And when you do that, you know, you get that, and you can see snipers come in again there. You get that, you know, rehearsal in your mind as exactly where you missed, and then try to make those improvements. As you can see, just inches of difference will, you know, be the difference between burning the edges. As you can see, I burnt the edge on about 7 holes. So the difference between burning the edge on those shots versus getting them to drop is just micro adjustment differences. So you need to go back, reflect on that, because you're going to forget. Even I forget what happened. You know, tomorrow morning I'll wake up, I won't even remember what happened in my rounds, and I'll just try to go back to that place, go back to the video, see exactly the way that I put that ball guide and aim and spin and everything, and then say, okay, well, I'm just going to make just a little bit different ball guide offset this time. And that's what the best players who are winning and bannering all the time consistently, that's the way they play. And a lot of times you'll see they play, you know, especially these guys that you see in Master, you know, they're doing 5 or 6 playthroughs on the course and just refining. So it's become a game of more repetition wins than anything. So that's the best advice that I can have you do, is basically set out to look at and just make minor refinements and never go in blind and just say, oh, this time I'm going to change this. No, go to that last video and say, okay, this is exactly what I did. I'm going to just gently half bar difference spin or something. Or I'm going to just set up just an inch or two over to try to get 1 cup difference on my ball guide offset. So that's the little micro adjustments that you need to be making time and time again. So good luck with your rounds out there, guys. Let's just show you where I finished up. You know, I got off to that par on 1, but I was able to win the last 8 holes. So you can see with where I'm up to, 288 out of 312 now. So good luck out there, guys, with your rounds. Let me know how it goes. And I will see you guys for the opener coming up.